For those who aren't aware of the Above and Beyond Party, what is the main focus of the party?
Okay, well, we're a pressure group for political change. We basically have come to the conclusion that the political system is broke, it's not actually fit for purpose, and it actually doesn't work in our interests, and it will never work in our interests why it's structured the way it is, with the voting system and the party political system. Now, obviously, to even have a conversation along those lines, you need to establish a mandate in terms of to measure the level of discontent. And we feel having a none of the above box, which is our single policy, we want that introduced on all ballot papers, would at least be able to see exactly how many people are voting against the system and they're voting against the parties as they stand at the moment. But the problem is, if you don't agree with the system and you think that's the problem, you either abstain or you spoil your ballot. Well, they're kind of written off at the moment. So at least if we had that measurable box where we can count actually people who are voting none of the above, then that's a start. And if millions of people started doing that, then the pressure would obviously be to bear on the government to start listening to people who are kind of switched off the system and want sort of more radical change than what they're seeing at the moment.
So can you explain a little bit to us how Above and Beyond can relate to young people in Leeds, students at Leeds University, for example?
Well, I think we relate very well. I think a lot of young people kind of do think kind of a little bit outside the box, and what we're doing is thinking outside the box in terms of changing politics. I think they are very kind of attuned to kind of the bigger issues, the kind of fundamentals of how the world sort of goes round. And we don't feel that they're properly addressed at the moment. And I think when I speak tonight to the people, you'll hear me talk about things that other politicians wouldn't talk about. I'm talking about how money is created, how the banks works, all these big issues that young people talk about and find out about, but kind of aren't reflected by their politicians.
Some political commentators are saying that your party are trying to change a democratic voting system that has been in place for years. Would you agree with that?
No, I don't think. I think the problem is it's not properly democratic. You know, I think this idea we're living in a democracy is actually an illusion, because the three main parties are essentially basically saying the same thing. What they argue around is a thing around the edges, and what they argue about most is about the redistribution of wealth, in that the Conservatives want the people who are very wealthy to keep more of the money than Labour and the Lib Dems. In terms of the main policy areas, they completely agree on all issues, and that's a product of the system. The system creates the parties because they're all fighting on this centre ground, and they're all fighting for a few votes and a few marginals. Well, that's no good to the rest of us who just want their parties and their politicians to reflect their views better.
Can it not be argued that the current system is working at the moment? This general election, we've seen the emergence of a lot of smaller parties gaining a lot more recognition.
Yeah.
So could you argue that it is working in some way?
Well, I think a lot of parties are starting. There's more smaller parties because we're just all fed up with the current system, and I don't think it's fair at all. I mean, even the voting system, the Greens will probably get 6 or 7%. We'll only get one MP. UKIP will probably get 9-10%, and we'll have 2 MPs. Well, you know, that is not reflecting the views of the people. That's not reflecting their wishes at all. And it's steered towards these two main parties, who will probably, between them, get less than half the vote, but 90% of the seats.
So, what honestly do you believe your party's chance is in this general election?
Well, it's obviously very difficult. We're a new party. We've only been registered for a couple of months. It's a movement for change. It's part of a bigger none of the above movement. There's lots of people who want this none of the above for different reasons. And what we want to do is to give people who just feel, who don't vote, who wouldn't normally vote, who vote with a heavy heart, there's actually an option for them that they can actually vote for me as a vote against the current system and against the political, the way that politics works in this country.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's fine.